All right, I want to do a quick one because it's 100 days, y'all. It's 100 days. A lot of hype around 100 days. I think we kind of know the story. Trump's 100 days have been historically bad. Lowest polling numbers in the last 80 years. And yet, I have some thoughts about that, and I want to make it more useful for us, hopefully. One is that it's not going to do anything to Trump right now. Okay, his polling numbers right now, he doesn't care about them. He will care about him eventually, but he feels bulletproof, and he, probably thinks he can tweak it or turn it around. The bigger thing is what he thinks is not the issue right now. It's not what we're going to deal with today, or in the short term at all. The other thing is that the effects of his policies are not felt yet on Main Street. They will be very quickly, though. Very quickly. And I mean, like, very soon, we're going to see the first result of these tariffs that are leaving shelves empty. When I say we, I mean Main Street. So when a regular Main Street American is going to be feeling the result of his actions, it's going to be really soon. People's 401ks, the folks who've been laid off are already feeling it, but the rest of the country is going to feel the results of the federal government basically being torn apart soon, if they haven't already. That will not translate into polling yet. It started to, but the real drop-off is coming. So that's one piece. People are saying he's underwater. It's historic lows, and yet there are people who hated Donald Trump who voted for him, okay? So is this going to change behavior? That's the real question. Voting behavior. Is this going to change the decisions that people make in the voting booth, who they support, what policies they support? So that brings me to the bigger thing, which is basically that what matters in the short term to us, to our community, it's really a few like meaty, very specific things. It is our elected officials on the right. Are they going to change their behavior based on the heat that they're getting from their constituents? That's one piece, right? You see that with Chuck Grassley after he got hammered at his town hall. So his people are feeling the effects. They're changing their behavior, and their kind of advocacy behavior. And he's changing what he's saying now on policies. Okay, and he's joined by another senator recently. All that to say that, like, that is one major indicator on if the winds are shifting. Who knows why? Is it just the constituents? Is it polling? Is it all of it? I don't know. But is it making our elected officials change their behavior? That's a big thing. The other one is not just Republicans, it's moderate Dems or moderates in general. Are they changing their behavior? Marie Gluesenkamp Perez had a town hall recently, and she was pounded pretty hard by her own voters after she voted for the SAVE Act. Is she going to change her behavior now? 4 Democrats moved over to vote alongside the GOP and help to pass the SAVE Act through the House. What's going to happen to them now? A note on that, I don't think you get Marie Gluesenkamp Perez and the other 3 voting for that if Chuck Schumer hadn't betrayed the folks in the House. I said this in the video that I did back then. It wasn't just about whether we should have kept the government open or not. It was about he had made a deal basically with the House Dems to say that if you all don't vote for this, then we won't either. And he betrayed that. And you heard AOC mentioned it. She said, you have broken trust with the House. And so what's happening now is you see that the Democrats, rightly or wrongly, they believe that they have to make this vote to stay in their seats. They have to vote conservatively or not vote with the Dems completely all the time in order to keep their seats in these kind of pink, red, purple districts. So, they crossed over, and that's one of the results that came from that is they want to keep their seats, and so they're going to vote moderate. So the last piece of this is something that is like a little smaller. The other piece, you can't forget this, is that polling actually, I don't care about polling as much as I care about elections. And I said this last year, and we get really excited about polling. But don't ride the polar coaster, y'all, okay? Don't ride the polar coaster. Do not ride that thing. Especially when you're saying that he's underwater, meaning that his numbers went from like 54% to 49% or something like that. Again, some of these people would still vote for his ass. They would still vote for him. So don't let that sway you right now. Elections are what matters. Special elections matter a ton. And we already saw the result in Wisconsin. We saw the shrinking of the margin in Florida. We're going to get some other special elections. We're going to get a U.S. House race in Arizona over the summer that's going to tell us about how the electorate's feeling. And that, if that margin grows, that'll tell us a lot. Arizona's a purple state. It's a big battleground state, so that's a good indicator of how the voters are feeling, and it's the best poll that exists. Elections are the best polls that exist. We're also going to see how revved up the Dems are. We're going to see how revved up Democratic voters are. We got elections coming up, primary elections in Virginia. Virginia is this like bellwether in odd number of years to tell us, how folks are feeling. It's right there outside of DC, so we're going to see how much the federal workers vote plays a role in that. We're also going to see elections in New Jersey and in New York that tells us what kind of Democrat folks want to vote for. So these things are important data points that let us know how voters feel. And they're the only ones. The general elections that happen in November are the only ones that tell us anything real before the 2026 elections. They're the biggest election that we're going to have this year. All right. So the last piece is actually a little bit of homework. And so you've got these big indicators, I think, that are, polling is a big indicator, but to me, unreliable, and to others, unreliable. Elected officials and the actions they take is another indicator. Again, this is one where it's about what the Republicans are doing and what moderates are doing. And then there's any special elections that are coming up. Any elections, period, that are coming up. Primaries or special elections that are coming up. And what those tell us about how voters are feeling, which is better than the poll. The last thing is actually smaller. So the last thing is smaller. It is like actually more personal, and that's your own people in your lives. So you all are related to or know people who are Trump voters or moderates, or maybe people who are apathetic. Now's the time to go to them and ask them how they're feeling about stuff. Prices haven't come down. A lot that Trump has promised hasn't happened. So for the folks that voted for him, what do they think about things? Are they still in his camp? Have they moved a little? These are important data points. Are they asking you about rallies and stuff now, and about the Tesla takedowns or something like that? Are they more curious about what you have to say? Those are great indicators, especially when you start talking to a bunch of other people and you understand that they're having the similar conversations with their Trump people. Now it's not going to be everybody, okay? And we don't need them all. We lost the election by less than 2% last year. So is there a notable percentage, and it only takes 3.5%?
No single campaigns failed during that time period after they'd achieved the active and sustained participation of just 3.5% of the population.
Okay, we know these numbers. They're all less than 5%, y'all. We don't need everybody. So that's good. I mean, the other thing that's is not really an indicator, because I feel like they're so unreliable, are the media on the right that help to swing the public's opinion towards Trump. And you do see a move away from him, right? Some of the polling that came out was from Fox News. When the markets took a dive, you see Fox News, either their commentators or their actual news people noting that Trump may have made a mistake. You see that on Putin right now. You're seeing it on China. Like they're starting to crack. And then you see notable influencers. Joe Rogan is questioning whether or not Abrego Garcia should have been deported, and he's talking about due process.
So the overcorrection is lack of due process. The overcorrection is like round them all up, ship them to jail. Like that's like some things that you say when you're not thinking things through. Like, what do you do about all the criminals? Take them all, fucking send them to El Salvador.
Yeah.
What about due process? No, fuck that. Well, here's the problem with fuck that. What if you are an enemy of, let's not say any current president. Let's pretend we got a new president, totally new guy in 2028. And this is a common practice now of just rounding up gang members with no due process and shipping them to El Salvador. You're a gang member. No, I'm not. Prove it. What? I got to go to court. No,
Yeah.
No due process.
That's
Right?
dangerous, Joe.
That's dangerous.
dangerous.
That's
man.
dangerous. That's dangerous. We got to be careful that we don't become monsters while we're fighting monsters. I think due process exists for a reason, and the reason is it is horrific for someone to be accused of something they didn't do, be imprisoned for crimes they didn't commit, and then live in a cell, live in a cage with a bunch of
People who did commit shit.
Here it is, Benjamin Franklin. It's better 100 guilty persons should escape than one innocent person should suffer. That is wisdom
Yeah.
that has survived hundreds of years.
Joe Rogan's talking about due process. Nick Fuentes is talking about, you may not know him, he's a younger influencer, straight up Nazi.
Liberals were right fundamentally about Trump. Whether he has good intentions or bad intentions, whether he means well or not, some people blame his advisors, some people blame people around him. Whatever you think about his culpability, he is in effect, okay? Maybe not consciously or intentionally, but in effect, what he is a demagogue. What he is a populist demagogue with nativist rhetoric and ginning up resentment against the system to empower himself and the people around him, and then brought the swamp closer to the periphery in his first and second administration, willing to say and do anything. Yeah, that all kind of turned out to be true.
And then you have Candace Owens. Candace Owens putting a video out saying, I thought Trump was a free speech warrior. And it turns out he's not.
Donald J. Trump and his administration. But I don't recognize his administration right now. I don't recognize what's happening. I have a theory. I do. We were kicking around some theories earlier, me and the team, and we were going, how could Trump be such a free speech enthusiast and allowing these things to happen? Going after college universities, trying to suppress speech, while pretending that you're not suppressing speech, while pretending that you're fighting DEI. It's so messy. It's so obvious. Everyone knows what you're doing. People who are still trying to grift, I suppose, are not willing to challenge you on this, which is ridiculous, because when you are out of office, we are going to have to live with these consequences. Our children are going to have to grow up in this America. Okay. So when you threaten our speech, it's not worth it so that we can have pom-poms and go hurrah for a couple of years, then go, okay, well, Yeah, now it kind of stinks because, we're getting arrested for wrongthink. We got David Friedman. Yeah, arrest him. Arrest Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens. Get them. I love it. And if you think it's going to stop with college campuses, you're out of your mind. So you better buck up and root for Harvard University in this fight.
And, again, these are people who are looking for reasons to stick with him and to go back to him. And so they're unreliable, but if they're putting out content like that, that means that the people, again, that in your life may have their minds changed. And if those people are having their minds changed, then that means that voters are having their minds changed. More than anything, for the Common Power community, the most important part of this is that this is what's bringing us more volunteers. This is what's going to bring us more volunteers and more people who can knock on doors and talk to voters. And that's important because it's not just about moving people from voting for Trump towards not voting for him or towards voting for a Democratic candidate. It's also about moving people who were on the couch or who were kind of moderate and thought this is not a big deal to now hitting the streets with us. That is important. Look for that more than anything else. Those people who maybe didn't join you knocking doors last year, or were kind of timid about volunteering, now's the time to push them. 100 days in, now's the time to push people to taking action and volunteering. Let's do it, y'all.